Victor Wembanyama, the first unanimous Defensive Player of the Year, an MVP finalist and fresh off 35 points in his playoff debut, is now lying face down on the court at Frost Bank Center, and the entire NBA has gone silent. Now, NBA players themselves are making shocking revelations about his health, raising serious concerns across the league. So the fall, the diagnosis, and what the basketball world said next. Here is how it all happened. Tuesday night, April 21st, 2026. Game 2 of the Western Conference first round. San Antonio Spurs versus the Portland Trail Blazers. The Frost Bank Center crowd was electric, still riding the high from Wembanyama's franchise record 35-point playoff debut in Game 1. The Spurs had won that opener 111-98. They were up 1-0. They were the second seed. They hadn't been in the playoffs since 2019. And the man responsible for all of it was running the floor. With 8:57 remaining in the second quarter, Wembanyama drove into the paint, executed a spin move around Trailblazers point guard Drew Holiday, and was fouled. What happened next changed the trajectory of the night and possibly the series. As he went to the ground, Wembanyama tried to pass the ball, and with that, was unable to protect his head as he hit the court. His jaw took the full force of the hardwood. 7'4", full speed, no hands to break the fall. The arena went from roaring to dead quiet. Wembanyama remained on the court for about 30 seconds, before rising to a seated position for about a minute and speaking to teammate Stephon Castle. He appeared dazed. He tried to get to his knees and, according to courtside reports, he fell right back onto the court. He sat with his head between his legs, trying to get his bearings. Then Coach Mitch Johnson called timeout to check on Wembanyama, who immediately ran through the tunnel after getting to his feet. He sprinted. He did not come back. Wembanyama played just 12 minutes before being placed in the concussion protocol and ruled out for the game. In those 12 minutes, he had 5 points, 4 rebounds, 1 block, and 1 assist. The Trailblazers went on to rally from a 14-point hole in the fourth quarter to stun the Spurs 106-103, evening the series at 1 game apiece. Without Wembanyama, the Spurs blew a 14-point fourth quarter lead in the playoffs. For the first time since 2003, a span of 76 games, the man who had just been crowned the greatest defensive player in basketball 24 hours earlier was now in a quiet room, undergoing neurological evaluation. And the basketball world did not take it well. The people who saw Wembanyama hit the floor up close, the ones standing feet away when that 7'4" frame crashed jaw first into the hardwood, reacted the way you would expect people who care about someone to react, not with media-trained cliches, with real visible worry. Stephon Castle, the second-year guard who had been subbing into the game at the time, was one of the first to reach Wembanyama. Castle knelt beside him on the baseline. He looked at his teammate's face. He checked his eyes, and after the game, Castle offered a measured but telling account. "I was just checking on him, making sure he was okay," Castle said. Obviously, he ran off the floor, so that's a good sign. Castle tried to focus on the positive, the fact that Wembanyama could get up, could jog, could move under his own power. But his tone told a different story. This was a teammate doing everything in his power not to panic publicly, while clearly being deeply unsettled by what he witnessed. Then there was rookie Dylan Harper, who provided what might be the most revealing window into Wembanyama's immediate state. Harper was among the first players to reach the fallen star. Before he was led off the court, he tried to get a read on how Wembanyama was processing the impact. "I tried to talk to him," Harper told reporters after the game. "He was like, 'I'm doing good. My head just hurts a little bit.'" Then Harper added the part that carried all the emotional weight. "We're obviously going to pray for him. He's one of the toughest guys I know. He's going to shake back real quick." There was something deeply genuine about Harper's words. The mix of optimism and the unstated acknowledgement that praying for someone means you're genuinely worried about them. Devin Vassell, one of the team's veteran guards, and a player who has been with the franchise through the lean years and now through this resurgence, gave the most composed post-game comments. But even in his composure, you could hear the gravity of the moment. "We've all got to step up," Vassell said. "We know what Vic brings to the table. We've played without him for a couple games this year. It's going to be next man up." He paused, then added, "That's a huge void to fill. We can't get bogged down by it." That phrase, "a huge void to fill," was loaded with honesty. The Spurs had been 15.2 points per 100 possessions better with Wembanyama on the court than without him during the regular season. That is a staggering, almost absurd gap. A void isn't hyperbole. It's arithmetic. Later, when asked if he'd had a chance to speak with Wembanyama after the game, Vassell admitted he hadn't. "We'll definitely check in on him. Vassell said, "Our prayers are with him. We just want him to be good." Castle said the same thing. Vassell said the same thing. Harper said the same thing. 3 different players, 3 different personalities, 3 different roles on the team, all using the word prayers. That tells you how the locker room felt. That tells you this went beyond basketball the second Wembanyama's chin hit the floor. Veteran backup center Luke Kornet, who was suddenly thrust into the starting role, responded the only way a professional could. By performing, he finished with 10 points and 9 rebounds in 28 minutes. It wasn't enough. The Spurs still lost. But Kornet's effort, along with Castle's team-high 18 points, and Vassell's double-double of 16 points and 12 rebounds, showed a team fighting not just for a win, but for their teammate. Now here's the thing about the Blazers' reaction that matters. Portland had every reason to focus on themselves after this game. They had just pulled off one of the more gutsy wins of the 2026 playoffs, coming back from a massive fourth-quarter deficit on the road, against the second seed to even a series that most people assumed would be a sweep. They had just made a statement. The celebration should have been the story, but it wasn't, because their own coach couldn't shake what he saw happen to Wembanyama. Tiago Splitter, the Trailblazers head coach, who himself is a former Spur, a man who won a championship in San Antonio in 2014, and knows the franchise's DNA intimately, was asked about the play after the game. His answer was immediate and unvarnished. "It was scary. I saw the images. It was not good." Splitter said, "Let that marinate." The opposing coach, in his own post-game press conference, after a massive road playoff win that changed the complexion of the series, his instinct was to talk about how disturbing Wembanyama's fall was. Not to gloat, not to celebrate the tactical adjustments Portland made. His first emotional reaction was about a player on the other team. Splitter then pivoted to acknowledge the on-court reality. With him out, Kornet, "I think he did a tremendous job." He said, "We still have to figure out how to play better when Kornet is on the court." Even in that tactical analysis, the underlying message was clear. Kornet is not Wembanyama. Nobody is. And the Blazers know the man they're really preparing for is the one who might or might not be cleared to play on Friday. Then there was Drew Holiday, the veteran point guard, the man who was whistled for the non-shooting foul on the play that led to Wembanyama's fall. Holiday's reaction told its own story. "I got the foul call." Holiday said, "I didn't think I touched him, but I don't really know. After they called the foul, I went to complain to the ref. I didn't really see Wembanyama's fall." Holiday wasn't being dismissive. He was being honest. In the heat of competition, he had turned away to argue the call. By the time he looked back, Wembanyama was already on the ground. Holiday didn't cause the fall maliciously. Wembanyama had been spinning, lost his footing, and his momentum and height turned a routine tumble into something catastrophic. The fact that the Portland locker room was talking about Wembanyama's health rather than their comeback win says everything about the respect this young man commands. Rivals don't react like this for ordinary players. Rivals react like this for the generational ones. To understand why the NBA reacted the way it did, why coaches from the opposing team looked shaken, why analysts on every major network sounded like they were covering a tragedy rather than a playoff injury update, why the betting odds for the entire Western Conference shifted within minutes. You have to understand what Victor Wembanyama was doing before that fall. The 24 hours prior to that face-first crash had been among the most decorated of any player's career in recent NBA history. On Monday, April 20th, Wembanyama became the first unanimous Defensive Player of the Year winner. In NBA history, he received all 100 first-place votes from the global media panel. Not 98. Not 99. Every single one. The previous youngest DPOY winner had been Dwight Howard, who won it at 23 years old in 2009. Wembanyama was 22 years and 107 days old. He didn't just win the award, he made every other candidate look like a consolation prize. He joined David Robinson and Michael Jordan as the only players in history to win both Rookie of the Year and DPOY. But Wembanyama went one step further. He's the only player to win both of those awards unanimously. No player in at least the last 50 seasons had accomplished that. And the DPOY wasn't even the crown jewel everyone was waiting for. Wembanyama was also named an MVP finalist, alongside reigning MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and 3-time winner Nikola Jokic. At 22, he would be the youngest MVP in league history if he won, a few months younger than Derrick Rose was in 2010-11. The regular season numbers were staggering: 25.0 points, 11.5 rebounds, 3.1 assists, 1.0 steals, and a league-best 3.1 blocks per game, shooting 51.2% from the field. He led the NBA in blocks for the third consecutive season, joining Dikembe Mutombo and Marcus Camby as the only players to accomplish that feat. He was the only player in the NBA to tally 1,500-plus points, 700-plus rebounds, 150-plus blocks, and 50-plus steals in a single season. The Spurs finished 62-20, the franchise's best record since going 67-15 during the 2015-16 season, snapping a 6-year playoff drought. They were championship contenders, real, legitimate championship contenders. And Wembanyama was the single biggest reason why getting to this point hadn't been easy either. The real struggle, as Wembanyama himself admitted after winning DPOY, was simply reaching the 65-game threshold to be eligible for awards. The 2024-25 season had been cut short by an unexpected life-threatening blood clot issue. He was the favorite for DPOY last year until that medical emergency sidelined him. This season, he missed several games in November due to a calf strain, leaving almost no margin for rest the remainder of the year. He fought through all of it. He hit 65 games. He won everything there was to win. And then in a second quarter drive, he hit the floor. The timing of this injury is what makes the reaction so visceral. This wasn't a random regular season game. This was the moment the basketball world had been waiting for. The arrival of the next great player on the playoff stage. And in Game 2, 12 minutes in, a slip on a spin move took it all away. The moment Shams Charania of ESPN reported that Wembanyama had been diagnosed with a concussion and would have further testing on Wednesday, the NBA's entire landscape shifted, not just in terms of one series. The shockwave rippled across the league. Nick Wright, the prominent FS1 analyst, pointed out that OKC had suddenly gone to -200 to win the West and became a minus money favorite to win the title at -115 for the first time all year. One player's concussion moved the championship odds for the entire Western Conference. That doesn't happen for role players. That doesn't happen for all-stars. That happens for one or two players in the entire league. Keith Smith, the respected NBA reporter, expressed worry not just about the concussion, but about structural damage. He hit the floor so hard. I'm worried about his jaw and cheekbones. That's the fear no one wants to voice, that a concussion might not be the only consequence of a 7'4" frame hitting hardwood face first at speed. Kevin O'Connor of Yahoo Sports described the fall bluntly: knocked out cold after his chin hit the ground. He then noted the timeline. The average NBA recovery time for a concussion is 7 to 10 days. 7 days from Tuesday would be Game 5. 10 days would be Game 7. Both scenarios assume this series goes long, and without Wembanyama, it very well might. Social media filled with well wishes and calls for caution from fans, from analysts, from other players watching the game. The collective reaction was visceral, a mixture of concern for a human being. They watched lose consciousness on live television and fear about what this means for the most exciting playoff story of 2026. Head coach Mitch Johnson, standing in his post-game press conference with a face that revealed more than his words, confirmed the diagnosis. He has a concussion. He's in the protocol. Johnson said, "We'll obviously take the proper and appropriate steps." When asked if Wembanyama was being evaluated for anything beyond the concussion, Johnson gave a one-word answer: no. When pressed on whether Wembanyama could play in Game 3 on Friday, Johnson refused to speculate. "The protocol is the protocol," he said. "We'll just follow it as everyone else does and plan accordingly." Under the NBA's concussion protocol guidelines, a player cannot return to full participation for 48 hours after the time of the injury, but can resume gradual activity after 24 hours, as long as symptoms don't worsen. The player must hit several benchmarks while being symptom-free before being cleared to play. It's a multi-step process: stationary bike, jogging, agility work, non-contact drills, all monitored and approved by a league-appointed physician. Game 3 is Friday in Portland. It seems improbable that Wembanyama would be cleared by then. The expectation is largely that he will not take the court for Game 3 on Friday night in Portland, with a Game 4 return the hope and Game 5 more likely. There is one shred of positive news. On Wednesday, Wembanyama reported to the team's facility as scheduled while recovering. According to ESPN's Shams Charania, Wembanyama is hopeful to travel with the team to Portland on Thursday. Whether he plays Friday is a different question entirely. The San Antonio Spurs built this season, this entire era, really, on a foundation of what Victor Wembanyama can do on both ends of the court. The team was 15.2 points per 100 possessions better with him on the floor than without him. They went 12-6 without him in the regular season, but playoff basketball is not the regular season. Concussions are tricky. You can trend upward and then regress. What we know is this: the Frost Bank Center crowd fell silent when Wembanyama hit the floor, a stark contrast to the electric atmosphere from Game 1 when his playoff arrival felt like a coronation. His teammates prayed for him. His opponents called it scary. The betting markets moved. The media landscape shifted. Every NBA star's reaction to Wembanyama's injury told the same story from a different angle. This is a player the league cannot afford to lose, even temporarily. Not because of what it means for the Spurs, not because of what it means for the series, but because of what Victor Wembanyama represents to the sport itself. The once-in-a-generation talent that the entire basketball world has agreed upon, unanimously, the same way 100 out of 100 media voters agreed he was the best defender in basketball. The question now isn't whether the reactions were speechless. They were. The question is whether Victor Wembanyama will be back on that court before it's too late, and whether the Spurs can survive until he is.